Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm first going to check to make sure that I can see the chat. And then I'll talk for a bit. And if people show up, then I'll talk more. Sounds like a good thing, yeah? Ooh, live stream offline. That's so weird. I don't know. Yeah, so I just got out of work. It's pretty cool. And where it doesn't show anything. Yeah, I took a shower, got around. I gotta go to a wedding tomorrow. Hey, what's up? The tank is Eric. I can't see the chat in my computer, so it's kind of weird. So I'm just gonna talk for a little bit until I can figure something out. Like, it doesn't even show up. And then I promise you I will deliver some content. How you doing, man? You just wake up? Hey, what's up, Eric? Yeah, like, but my phone's like over there. I can't reach it. So I don't know how to, like, I was like, okay, I can just look at my computer maybe and do that, but I guess not. I think I'm just gonna talk and we'll see what happens. So starting out, I was thinking about, there's this tabletop game system called ICRPG. It's Index Card RPG. It's by the guy that did Drunkens and Dragons. I don't know if you know that YouTube channel, but it's really good. He's an interesting dude. And let me blind myself with this light over here. All right. And in his book that he released, he had this this nice laid out page that says L.O.G. It's location, obstacle, goal. And it's the simple system that he uses to make things interesting within the D&D like system that he has, right? So there is always the location, like where you are, where the heroes are right then. And usually after that, the goal comes in. So it's, you know, they want to do something, they want to slay something, they want to get to another area, they want to cross a trench or whatever it is. And so you have L and G, you have the location and the goal, and then you create the obstacle in the middle to give it some more content and you know, keep things interesting. And I'm going to put my pen down. And so I was thinking, like, I always like to do how that relates to life. And I think a lot of things are like that, right? You have where you are, you know, which a lot of people don't necessarily know in terms of like their struggle. Like, let's say I want to lose weight. And you have the goal of losing weight. I want to lose 10 pounds. And then you think about where you are in terms of that, right? And how much you need to push yourself to do it or whatever. And then the obstacle is that motivation or whatever you need to do to set up the systems to lose the weight. And I think also within the cognitive functions that comes out a lot too. Eric, I'm sure you know a lot more about this than I do. But you know, you have your dominant functions goal, and you have the desire to complete yourself through the inferior function. So if you're an introverted feeler, if you're an INFP, then you know you need extroverted thinking to complete those dynamics and make things a little bit better and balanced out, right? But the obstacle, I think, in the way is the tertiary function that's kind of just trying to persuade you to go to the other side, or to stay within your own comfort zone. Happens a lot for me as an INFP. Like, introverted sensing always just pulls me to drink the same coffee and eat the same things and not experiment as much as I should. And that's the obstacle. And so knowing that that is the situation, I think it's easier to push yourself to go to your auxiliary function. I don't know if anybody else knows what I'm talking about right now, or if I'm just rambling. So I was thinking about that, and how that always works out. And then I was bringing in some ideas from metaphors of movement. I don't know if you all know what that is, but it's something when I do like the metaphor exploration videos occasionally on my channel, they talk about how different metaphors are showing up within your metaphorical landscape. So, for example, there are obstacles, things that people need to get over or get under or go around or whatever. So instantly within that, you have the understanding of L.O.G. You have your location, if you can imagine the metaphor. And then you have the obstacle, which is the wall, and the goal to get to the other side. I don't know if I need to explain a lot more or not, but I'm just kind of talking because I was thinking about it. And then another one is like the containers is what Andrew Austin calls it. And it's when people say like, I'm in a depression, I feel depressed, I'm in like this hole, this pit, this endless pit of despair. Their metaphorical landscape, their creation of that is them in a pit. It's in a container. And I think that a lot of times if they had more awareness of L.O.G. and their cognitive functions, they could deal with that a lot better, right? They could see themselves in that pit, and then they could try to imagine some different ways to create a better situation for themselves. And also, like, the fulfillments is another one. This is like, I'm full of rage, I'm full of happiness, I'm full of anger and sadness. It's seeing yourself as this emotional container, this container that fills up with dread or fear or whatever it is. And that's like emotional trading. Please ask if you have questions, if you want me to specify something. And yeah, so like seeing yourself as that container, like I just get, this happened to me a couple times, like I just get angry and it feels like I'm going to explode, and within me there's this filling up of some sort of energy. And that is something that I think if I were to think more in terms of my auxiliary function, I could find ways about it. I could find ways to change my situation. If this rings true for anybody, please tell me, and then I can help you work on your metaphor. We can talk about it a little bit. I also think there's another one, the hurts, which is emotional injury. I think a lot of people, and I want to say like highly sensitive people, the HSPs, might have the hurts as their kind of standard metaphor that they go to. Like it feels like somebody just stabbed me in the back, or is like clawing at me, trying to get me to do something. And emotional injury. I don't know if there's a way of getting around that with your auxiliary function, but at least if you are aware of that, if you can calm down and see your metaphor and see that landscape and see what's in front of you and what's to the left of you and to the right of you and behind you, then I think it's pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it's a little bit more accessible and a little bit easier to approach by using your functions. Yeah. Burdens, responsibilities, those are other metaphors that a lot of people come up with. They have something that they feel like they're carrying with them all the time. It's just this boulder on their back, or this weight that they have to constantly pick up and walk wherever they're going. And I think a lot of introverted sensors probably use that as their standard go-to metaphor. So that's a thing too. I don't really have that too often, but I do know that my friend, he's an ESTJ, has this big sense of duty and responsibility that I think comes out through introverted sensing and through burden-based metaphors. And so for him, for using introverted sensing, I think he could find ways to stabilize the situation and figure out where he needs to lay his burdens to rest. And then also, there's one more, attachments, ties and bonds. These are metaphors that often come out too. Feels like there's a chain attached to you. Something pulling on you, like you're trying to get away and something's pulling you back. Something's got you bound in some way. These are, I think, attachments to other people or to situations. And seeing through your cognitive function stack and seeing where you are and where you want to go, and then using your functional skills, I think would help a lot. Does this make any sense? It was just an idea I had, so I felt that I should share it before I slotted it away in Evernote amongst the 320 notes that I have. But yeah, that's about it. It's a short one. It's a short video. Let me load this up right quick. Yeah, I can't see anything. That's cool. So, Eric, I don't even know if you're still there. A question for you, though. Well, it's gone. So, I have nothing really else to talk about, actually. It was just me thinking about that. I did want to know how other people saw their metaphors, but it seems like everybody's a little sleepy right now. Yeah. In terms of L.O.G and bringing it into real life a bit more, like, let's see. I talked about dieting. How about personal growth? Because that's what I always seem to talk about. That's what we like here, right? So you want to be a little more balanced, let's say. Let's pick somebody. Let's do an ESFP. Your life is kind of out of control a little bit. Things are going a little wild. Maybe you, lost your job or are fighting with somebody right now, getting a little bit overwhelmed. So you see where you are. If you stop and slow down a bit, you see where you are and see that the current situation that you're in is not working out too well, right? So stepping back even more, you can create a goal. I'm just going through this because this is just how I'm trying to think about things. You create a goal, you want to get your life into control a little bit more. You want to set something up that, kind of is more accurate for yourself, more helps you live more authentically as an introverted feeling auxiliary. So what do you got to do? You probably got to stop a little bit. You got to weigh your options, right? Instead of just taking action and trying to make quick goals and adjust things. So if you were to just if you were to see your obstacle only, if you were to see your obstacle only, that's extroverted thinking, and the pull, the drive that it is trying to get you to stay within your extroverted realm. Does that make sense? And so you need to not just do quick things to get quick results, follow that efficient, style. You need to stop, you need to slow down, you need to think about things in terms of your auxiliary function a bit more and how you can really follow what you want to do in your dreams and aspirations a little bit more. Oh, hey, what's up, Fode? I'm just talking. So, if you got a question or something, please let me know. I kind of ran out of what I was going to say. So if your life is going crazy, then you got to go to your auxiliary function instead of the obstacle, which would be your tertiary function, and try to just embrace those talents a bit more, because you have them. Everybody has like strong auxiliary functions, supposedly, right? But it's a matter of you need to force yourself to use it a lot more. It doesn't just come out naturally. It's something that you need to really consciously use, especially in these times of like chaos and havoc. You know, like I was saying, if you lost your job, if your boss is yelling at you and you're fighting with all these people, you're not going to just, you know, naturally be like, oh, well, I need to use my auxiliary function and sort this out based on what I like and dislike and my identity based off, you know, my past and all this other stuff. No, you're just going to naturally fly into it in the extroverted way and blame the problems on everybody else, because that's what your inferior function tells you to do. Inferior function is always like, the problem's not with you, buddy, it's with everybody else. So, you know, you just continue doing what you're gonna do, right? And your tertiary function's gonna be like, yeah, that's the right idea. No point in slowing down and reflecting on things, because you're not the problem, right? Does that make any sense? I hope it does. Yeah, so that's one thing that I think shows L.O.G a little bit more, because you can see, if you always assume that not always, a lot of times if you assume, hey, what's up, man, that the obstacle is outside of yourself or is in your tertiary position, whatever that function is, then I think it gives you a lot of room to actually have more awareness of your auxiliary function. I'm trying to think of a situation from my life. Okay, I guess story time. So when, let's see, I was living in Nagoya, so it was like 4 years ago. Actually, happened a little bit here in Tokyo too. When I was trying to be this mental robot and not have any feelings about anything. This was me trying to continue to do things in my dominant perspective, using introverted feeling, doing what, you know, feels good and right to me. Ooh, the White Knight. Yeah, man. I honestly, I don't know what to say about that. I don't want to lose my train of thought either. But yeah, so like I was trying to be this mental robot and not let myself get hurt, not let my feelings come out or anything like that. Yeah. And by doing that, I switched to like my 8th function. 7th and 8th are apparently the ones that come out kind of first. And so in my functional stack, it would be introverted thinking and extroverted sensing. So I come out as this like super sloppy ISTP who is just trying to like get things together and try to make them work. And so a lot of times, instead of getting outside of myself and seeing the problem as really something that I brought out by not having a healthy, extroverted, intuitive perspective, like my auxiliary function would allow me, I blamed everybody else, and I see all these different technical problems, and I go out. I would have drank a lot and party and go to the club like a couple times a week and things like that. And the clubs in Japan go till like 5 or 6 in the morning from like 10 p.m. Right? So it's just like constant stimuli, and then trying to just ignore my emotions, ignore my introverted feeling, and still try to like put people into categories and put my feelings and my values and my emotions and things into categories as well. But it's not healthy. It's not in a good way at all. And so where I was, if I could have seen it, that my location, my style at that time was unhealthy, and I'm trying to push problems on other people, If I would have seen that that is my location and my goal is to reach extroverted intuition so that I can connect to my inferior function of extroverted thinking and see that outside perspective a bit more. If I could have seen that, then I wouldn't have just stuck with my introverted realm of things. I wouldn't have just done what has been reliable, and not taken in other perspectives and things like that. I hope that makes sense. And so that is the obstacle. The obstacle is sticking within your mental attitude, whether it's introversion or extroversion. Yeah, that's about it. I think I've said that a couple times, but it might just be. I got a wedding to go to in the morning in Yokohama. It's like 2 hours away. Pushing problems into other people sounds like projecting. It is. It is projecting. Because you don't have the connection to your inferior function or your aspirational function, your projecting function. And so everybody, apparently, this is according to Lenore Thompson as well in her book. Her book? Yeah. It's a her, right? Yeah, it's all projecting. Your inferior function, like whenever your psyche is telling you that you need to have more connection to your inferior function, then you project that with a bunch of like shady unconscious baggage onto other people, and you don't see the problem as yourself, and then you try to balance that attitude in hold on, let me word it a different way. I'm an INFP. If I'm projecting all these things, these attitudes, and all these thinking aspects onto other people, then I'm still trying to balance that, I think, a little bit by using thinking. But the form of thinking I would use is introverted thinking, because I'm denying the extroverted perspective. I think that makes sense. So I'm still using thinking, and it feels like I'm doing the right thing. It feels like I'm healthy and I'm decisive and accurate and all these other things, but it's not. It's just sloppy. It's just using other functions like way down the list, and sticking with what has always worked, because that's what introverted sensing also tells me to do, and running away from the extroverted perspective, which is the growth, the growth side for an introvert. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Yeah, I got that wedding tomorrow. It's like a 2-hour train ride, and then weddings in Japan cost like $300 to attend, because you're paying back. You're like, it's like, hey, I love you, good job, you're getting married, congratulations, here's $300. It's expensive. And then the after party and all that stuff. You guys got any questions or anything you want to talk about? Or should I just book it? Hold up. Hey, what's up, Carbine? What do you have to say about ISFPs? I have... I'm trying to think. I have one ISFP that's pretty close to me in my life. It's my wife's friend. And from my personal experience with her, like I can definitely see how we're trying to do similar things. Like we both have that dominant function, and we both have the the inferior function struggles, right, with organizing our lives and things like that. She unfortunately does not get out, and I keep telling her, she's like super quiet, super shy, and kind of, she has low, oh cool, good, she has like really low self-esteem, and it sucks because I went through that too. Like, I know what she's, oh, it says very bad connection. I went through that. I understand her struggles in my way. It's a similar way, but and I keep telling her, like, she needs to just go out there. She needs to go get experience, new novel experiences, and just not rely on trying to piece together, you know, her likes and dislikes with introverted feeling, and then synthesizing all these ideas which keep her locked in and doesn't let her, you know, get out, right? And doesn't let her grow. I really hope that oh yeah, okay. It says very bad connection, so I didn't know if I'm like doing the robot or anything like that. Yeah, so I've told her a bunch. Oh yeah, that she needs to just get out there. She needs to do something. She needs to meet new people. She needs to just go to a club by herself or whatever she wants to do. Go out hiking, or I don't know, whatever she likes to do, because that's what helped me. You know, it was me going out by myself a lot and just being awkward and feeling the awkwardness and just absorbing it, and then trying to come out as someone who has learned something from it. And she also doesn't do anything to really express her introverted feeling, and I think this is something that a lot of, you know, IFPs do struggle with. And for her, she's amazing at art apparently, but she doesn't do it. I keep telling her, like, ISFPs, you know, I just was reminded of another one in my life. You know, find some way of expressing yourself. IFPs need to do that, especially. And, you know, for INFPs, for me, it's making these videos, it's thinking of different ideas and like kind of playing around with things. And for her, I think it would really help her if she did something like that. You know, I have another ISFP friend who is an amazing artist. I don't know if he's healthy or unhealthy or whatever. He's really cool though, so I guess that's enough. And so I don't know, like, before he really got into producing his art and stuff, but he's an art teacher, and he's amazing. He does murals and things like that. Beautiful, awesome work. He teaches kids how to, you know, be happier, healthier people through. I think that's a key thing, you know. Are ISFPs less likely to be successful and make the least money out of all types? Oh, I don't know about that. I think you know, there are studies about it. Like, I think ENTJs are, you know, the biggest money makers or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But I think it's just a matter of finding, you know, your talents and your skills and using them properly. And, you know, and to do that, you need to incorporate both sides of the world, your introverted side and the extroverted side, you know, and not try to shape that to yourself, but let yourself adapt to that outer world. And I think what would stop people from making money or being successful or whatever that means to you is not taking in that other perspective. And then, yes, the inferior or aspirational function, extroverted thinking, you know, we struggle with organizing our world and our life and making the steps and contingencies that we need to reach our goals for ISFPs and INFPs. You know, so finding ways to do that, finding different methods, I think is really important. You know, and it's not easy. I've been taking a lot of like doing a lot of seminars and things like that. And hold on, I don't even know if I can read that after it's gone. What do I do? Okay. What was I saying? I've done a lot of seminars and things, and I've learned a lot. And NLP really helps too. And so I'm going to suggest, Carpine, that you do that too. Look into NLP, look in for things like the SMART model and SCORE model and things, or check out the Patreon Hero Maker framework, because it has some stuff in there too. Let me read Fode's comment and swallow. I am INTP and TI is the same. There's only so much you can think of with your brain. Yeah. I tell myself that I have to go and get out of my head. I can think of playing basketball. Yeah, I mean it's the same problem. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and it's like all of our issues come, I think, from not taking in the other perspective, the perspective of our inferior function, and then trying to force the outer world to deal with that instead of realizing that the problem is in us. Yeah, and so TI or NI or I don't know, FE, whatever it is, I think it's still all a matter of awareness and balance, and going back to, you know, the L.O.G thing, knowing where you are, being able to like clearly understand where you are and where you want to go, knowing the functions and things like that, and seeing the obstacles for what they are, those tempting things that keep you from going out there, keep you from experiencing your auxiliary function, and then dealing with that. Like, just, it's something you got to deal with, you know. Sorry, there was another comment. I seriously doubt that your type determines how successful you are in life. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking too, but there are, I think, specific functions that are going to push you to try to be successful in the way that we think of success, you know, as a generalization. Extroverted thinking being one of them. Introverted sensing, possibly. But does that mean that it's really going to happen? I don't know. You know, like, if you mess up, or if you just don't do the right things in your life, or you have awful luck, or whatever it is, you have a unfortunate education or family life, or whatever it is, then I don't think it really means that you're going to be successful just because of your function stack, you know. I think a lot of people do put too much weight on cognitive functions and being like, well, my whole life is awful, and, you know, all these problems are happening, so they try to rationalize everything with their cognitive functions. And I know I'm talking a lot about that within this video, but some things, there are like health issues and things like that, probably don't want to look into your cognitive functions first as the way of fixing it. You know, you might want to go to a doctor. You might want to see somebody about that, right? But I did see that what you were talking about, the personality hacker, they did have that podcast. I didn't watch it, or listen to it rather, although I should, because I was intrigued by it. I just study other things on the train, read books and stuff like that. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? What's going on? Got anything to talk about? I was actually going to make this video on something completely different yesterday when I was thinking about it, but I didn't. I gotta save it because I'm still working on it. It's more trying to flesh out or simplify the cognitive functions into different hero types that aren't the classes that I have said before. I know some of you don't necessarily like the classes that I've decided on. And I can understand that. I can feel that. So I'm trying to find a way around it, but it's hard. Like, so what I want to do is make a nice line or a couple lines that just explain. Yeah, I like the idea of an elf priest, but you know, a couple lines that just explain. What was I gonna say? Oh, the general behaviors of the functions that gives enough information that you can piece together your own style, your own class from it, and it's not me trying to like force these analogies and parallels and stuff on people. Does that make sense? Like, I feel that I'm just explaining and exploring all these ideas when really it's not necessarily up to me to decide exactly what it is. Like, a lot of people would be like, we're the rogues. You know, I want to be a rogue or a death knight or a warlock or something like that. I'm like, well, they're not in there. And if I could make a system that allowed people to do that, I think it could be better. I don't know. But I did get a lot of good response from the classes that I did make. I like the videos personally, but I can see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, people don't want to be told necessarily what to do or what to think. I understand that. Yeah, and also, like, the reason you play games is different. And everybody plays games for different reasons. Everybody envisions these different fantasy worlds or whatever for different reasons. It doesn't necessarily match all the time to the functions, although there are some statistics about it that do match up pretty well with what I've done. But actually, I played a rogue constantly in like every game, female rogue, which is kind of weird. Maybe I gotta look into that. And so I thought of myself, before I did any of this MBTI stuff and cognitive functions, before I knew anything about it, it was, hey, I'm a rogue. I feel like a rogue, and my ENFP friend over there is a warrior, and he goes in there and thunderclaps and gets all this like attraction and attention. I was studying seduction and stuff at the time. But I think really where a lot of my growth came in was when I shifted my mindset, when I learned a little bit more about myself, and what's the sad face for? And then I saw myself as a healer, because feeling to me struck me as like a healer. And when I started seeing myself as a healer, I was like, well, there are a lot more things that I need to do, and I need to kind of shape my impact on the world a little bit differently instead of just hiding in the shadows. Yeah, the MBTI types, the descriptions are pretty accurate for most people. I mean, when I took it, I tested out as an INFP, and that's it. I never tested out as anything else. That's just what it was. I don't know. I don't know why everybody kind of types themselves wrong. I guess not everybody, but a lot of people complain about it, right? I think it's just a matter of circumstance and outside pressures and wishful thinking and some lack of awareness. Like, I've given the test to a couple of the people, and they take it and they're like, well, this is how I was feeling today, so that's why I took it. And that's my results, and I disagree with the results. And like, if you judge it based on one day or how you currently are, then I don't think the results are going to be very accurate. But if you have a better understanding of who you are already, then probably. Unless you try to like reason your way into other types and things like that. That can cause a lot of problems. I don't know. It always makes me think like, well, why didn't I test out wrong? You know, why didn't I show up as a bunch of different other types? And then it makes me question myself too. Anything else? Anybody got anything to talk about? It's kind of weird, yeah. I've been thinking of different names for the containers as well. The containers as in like the dominant function, and I think I am a weirdo, and the auxiliary function, tertiary function, and inferior. And before, like, I did the the hero as your dominant function, and then the auxiliary function. I'll get to that in 1 second, Eric. The auxiliary function, I said it was the companion. I'm thinking of it more as like a mentor now. Like it's that mentor that tells you what you got to do, and then a lot of times you take some of that advice, you get some of that training, but then you just don't want to do it, and you disobey the mentor, and you kind of fight against that. And then the tertiary function, I keep wanting to call it a support. I called it a newbie before, and I don't know, I've been wanting to give the functions a little bit more credit for what they do. And I feel it is a support. It recharges you, it energizes you, it keeps things playful and light. But I think it's more of like a defensive support. Like it tells you, we gotta run. We gotta get out of this situation. So stick with me and blame the outer world. And then the inferior function, I don't like the word inferior function, so... Oh, it stopped. Oh, no. And then, the inferior function, I don't like the word inferior, so anti-hero is the one I've been sticking with. But all right, so we got some comments in here. Let me scroll a wee bit. Eric Wright, how do you feel about a dominant and auxiliary function being equally present in someone? I think if that is actually what is going on, then you're awesome. And I hope you use it to serve the world properly. I don't know, like, I feel that there is a lot of, within me, I can really only use me as an example. I feel there is a lot of extroverted intuition within me, which is my auxiliary function. But it's something that I do consciously have to put to proper use. Like, it'll just come out, and that's fine. It's light and things like that, but it doesn't really produce anything. It doesn't actually serve my introverted feeling in the way that it needs to, unless I'm consciously focusing my efforts to have it do that. So I think, and I don't know if that answers your question or gives you any ideas about it, but having them both be at the same level, I think, is like superhuman power. You feel between an ENTP and an INTP. I think that could just be pull from, your circumstances and what's going on around you, or different like burdens and stuff in your relationships or anything like that, like you do prefer one, or according to how this all works, from my knowledge, I just study it because I'm interested in it. You have a preference. If you don't feel like you have a strong preference, it's because honestly, there's something that isn't right within your balance. Like, you should have a preference. And when you really settle into understanding which preference is yours, introversion or extroversion, then that fixes some things. It fixes and clarifies some things. ENTP and INTP, like, I don't know. You gotta figure out which is strongest for you. Which is your first need? Like, do you want to first judge the world and like make sense of the world and categorize it and things like that? Or do you first want to just explore different ideas and different possibilities? Which is the dominant pull? Like, when you wake up in the morning, which do you do? I think that's how you figure it out. Like, I mean, it's going to take some work and some looking into it, but I hope it helps. Am I an ISTP or an INTP? I don't know, Winona. I don't know. Keep looking into the cognitive functions and let me know. To me, hold on, sorry, I'm trying to read all these. INTP is smart and an INTJ is educated. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I have been thinking of TI as the smart hero, the intellect hero. Part of that is because I wanted to use like D&D attributes and things like that. But over NI, TI, I think, is the smart one. Because it's the one that uses reason to approach things and instead of synthesizing insights, which is what NI, which is more like the wisdom-based or perspective perceiving hero. So yeah, I could see that in a way. I think what gives NI, and especially INTJs, that hold on, I'll get to that comment in a second, gives that educated side is because they think a lot about things. They're always looking into that metaphysical realm and trying to question things and see where things are going, and that to me feels wise, right? Whereas TI is just like, not just like, it's trying to piece together and categorize all this information and things and make sense of it and figure out where you stand within that and how you can use that to build leverage and whatnot. You don't feel like you're artsy or want to make art as an ISFP. Maybe you're not, but maybe you got to find some way of expressing your introverted feeling, because you listen through your introverted functions, and you need to find a way of expressing that. And if you're going to some of the weaker functions, then it's not going to come out in the right way, right? So finding a physical way to manifest and express your introverted feeling, I think, is the key. This is really awkward with me stretching over the mic and all this other stuff. I don't know any... Let's see. I mean, I guess I do. Typing people in Japan is rough. Because they don't use the same language that, I'm used to thinking about through functions and stuff. There were some INTJs, I think, that I used to work with, but I wasn't really close to any of them. But I've met so many INTJs through Geek Psychology. It's great. Like, I was like, wow, this is amazing. You all have so many different, like, ideas and input and approaches to things that is not how I work, as FI and NE, where I'm just like, I feel like this, and then I throw all these ideas and stuff out until one of them kind of makes sense, or I can kind of see them and then try to piece them together. It's kind of a bass-ackwards way around it, right? I don't know what I was talking about there. Difference with intuition and sensing real life? What do you mean by that, Moko Mansa? I mean, intuition is the ideas that come from the real world, come from the tangible stuff, not attached to that. Whereas sensing is looking at a thing for what it is, seeing the grass for what it is, right? Without necessarily attaching labels and stuff to it, which would be more of a thinking thing, or saying, green grass is good, because that's more of a feeling thing. But sensing is like, this is grass, this is what it is. And then intuition is like, well, grass reminds me of this, or I want to, I don't know, whatever you would do with intuition and grass. I imagine just picking it up and throwing it up in the air like rain. So I guess that's something that intuition could do. I saw a weird shadow outside. Oh my god. That's what I get for watching the ghost TV shows. As an INTP, I hate school and I can't live by other people's rules. Ooh. I have an INTP friend who I've known him for what, like 9 years or something like that? No, more, like 12 years. And I never really hung out with him, though. Like, we worked at the same place, and we had a lot of mutual friends and stuff. And I was always like, man, this dude's cool. But if we were to hang out, we wouldn't really talk about anything. It would be pretty awkward because it's just two quiet dudes sitting down, right? And I got to know him a little bit more, and I don't know, it's really interesting. Like, he's done things that I wish I could do in a lot of ways. He's a translator, and he's made a program that helps him translate. And it's cut his time in, like, he works like an eighth of the time or something like that as he used to. And I think that came from seeing his desire, seeing his need, and using that extroverted intuition to be like, well, how can I make this easier on myself and let me do the things that I want to do in my free time? And so he wrote a program and did it, and now he's an awesome man that translates easily. I don't know. I'm gonna read a couple more, and then I should probably go to bed. I gotta wake up early for that wedding, like 6:30. Does think a lot? Yeah, I mean, introverted intuition it's not a rational function. It's an irrational function. So it's not necessarily attaching labels to things. It's not saying that this is good or this is bad or this is accurate or inaccurate, but it says this is what is going to happen because this is all that information, all these different points show me that this is the end. This will happen. That's kind of how introverted intuition works. Can you explain the thing with FI? Is it just less useful in our times? Hold on. What was after that? Zeriak. Yeah, I had FI originally as wisdom because I felt it was like seeing into somebody and seeing into the motives and then using that in whatever way you're going to use it, possibly to heal, because you can heal through wisdom, right? And then I just I switched to perception, and just kind of thought of it as like seeing into other people and seeing what other people are doing. So it's like wisdom, and it's kind of this battle that I'm like, maybe I should just get rid of this system and screw it, and think of some other ideas. But I think of introverted feeling as the conscience. And this is not saying that people that don't lead with FI or don't have FI in their stack or up high on their stack don't have a conscience, of course. But it's like this constant push to do what you feel is humanely right and universally right as a human being. And like, this comes up all the time when I see somebody like throw trash on the ground or something like that. One, I personify Earth, and I'm like, oh, I feel sorry for her, because FI personifies like everything. And then like, if it's at a workplace, I always feel bad for the person that's working, right? Like, because they got to pick that up. Why would you do that? Because if you were in that position, if you were working there, then you would have to pick that up. So just don't do that. Don't throw trash on the ground at somebody's workplace or something like that. And so that's kind of how FI naturally just comes out all the time for me, on a lighter level. And whether FI is useful in today's world or not, I mean, I think that when an IFP, specifically, just because we're talking about FI, so I always reroute it to the dominant side. If that makes sense, when an IFP is like fully on purpose then they have this burning inner flame and they're like ready to tackle whatever because they have such conviction around it and they're so motivated around it and so passionate about it because that is who they are. Like it's resonating with them, it's reflecting their internal state, and they're trying to find a way to get other people to really understand that, because that is how you should act to be humanely good. Does that make sense? So I think FI does have a very good place in the world, but it doesn't, like, a lot of people struggle with it. You know, it's hard to bring it out there. It's hard to do stuff with it because it's like an open heart. Like, it's just constantly being berated by the outside world and getting scratched and dinged and stuff like that. So you want to protect it, but that's not good. You know, you got to just take it and turn it into something better using your auxiliary function. Why Nona? I think a lot about something, but also I feel a lot about my values. Is it TI or FI? I was called cold like the last 10 years or so, up until the most recent couple of years, when I started really thinking of myself as a priest, as a healer. And that was like I was saying before, which was probably before you came, but I was just in an unhealthy state. I was trying to protect myself too much and protect my emotions too much. So I was called cold too. I don't know. I can't necessarily tell you what you are. So sorry. Just gotta keep looking at it. Clerics, aka priests, do have proficiency in wisdom and charisma. Ow. I said charisma was FE in my notes that I guess I could show sometime, but I have a problem with shooting from my phone and using my computer at the same time. Anyway. Yeah, I said FE was charisma because it felt like it's the face, it's the ambassador. Like, if you have high charisma, you're going to be the one that goes out there and talks to people. And so, yes, could be kind of like a paladin or whatever, but it felt very FE to me. But then, you know, there's always people commenting like, well, I feel charismatic. I'm charismatic. I don't have FE. You're wrong. And I have to defend myself or just hide and not share my ideas. My nose itches. You still feel like FI is a weak function, like INFP, usually associated with engineering genes, but FI is priest clerics. I don't know. I think that FI and IFPs and EFPs do have their place in the world, but it's connected to people, so it's definitely not going to be like engineers and things like that, but it's going to be more like poet or actor or writer, like yeah, any of those, like what was I going to say? If you look on celebritytypes.com, there's a list of, you know, people with those types, and sometimes it's wrong, but like if you look at the INFP, it's like the author of Winnie the Pooh and Game of Thrones and just like every comic and book that really touched you when you were a child are INFPs. Like, so I think they do have their place, but I mean, poetry is not necessarily in right now, right? Yeah, and as Eric was saying, like, you don't necessarily fall into a career based on your functions. It can persuade you and it could help you out, but like, I remember when I was younger, I was building computers and things like that, and you could say that that's not necessarily an INFP thing, but I was programming. I had like a massively popular Tekken 3 website when I was like 13. That was kind of funny. That I wrote in Notepad. You know, I learned how to write HTML and all that stuff way back in the day. It's kind of dorky, but I don't know. I don't know what I was saying about that. Oh yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean based on my cognitive preferences that I'm going to have a specific job, but I do feel that if you're an NF or like an ST, you're going to naturally gravitate towards different professions, which is why I called them professions when I was thinking about NF as the enchanter and ST as the blacksmith and things like that. Cool. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to read that next one. Yeah, I mean, FI and FE are definitely generally more concerned with morality and values and the human-centric component. Which doesn't mean that other people don't, but it's like, it's differentiated. So it's like, this is who I am. I am somebody who pays attention to these specific things. And if I don't do that, then, you know, all these problems are going to happen. And this is how people should live. You should uphold the social norms and standards and things like that. And if you don't do that, then that means that you're a bad person or whatever. So that's kind of like how feeling gets brought out and accentuated and strengthened as a dominant or auxiliary function, from my understanding. I feel like I have to preface everything. Yeah, I don't know. I used to frequent Reddit and the MBTI channel and stuff like that. And there were a lot of, you know, good insights in there, but there were a lot of people that were just negative about everything. Or just, I mean, even sometimes on Geek Psychology, in the comments, there are people that just like hate on other types and stuff like that. And I decided to distance myself from that on Reddit, so I just don't use it anymore. Yeah. All right, I am going to bed. I gotta go to bed. I gotta do that. If this is something cool for you guys, then I think I will do it again. It's kind of rough for me to start at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, but if this is when most people can catch it and contribute and we can talk, then that's cool. I'll try to do that more. If not, then it's gonna be at like 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. rather. Yeah. I can never pronounce that. Zeriak. Yeah, there you go. I always want to say Zeroic. Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do as a last closing comment, what I'm trying to do with all this stuff with Geek Psychology, I think, is show that, you know, this is one function, one preference, one type of person, one race is not better in any way than any of the other ones. Sure, in different circumstances, they could succeed a lot easier, but I don't think that one is inherently better in any way than any other one. And being aware of that, knowing that, seeing yourself and seeing your difficulties and your flaws. Z-Rock. Okay. Good, that's easier. Knowing your skills and seeing where you lack in a lot of areas, then you can look at other people and see where they are stronger than you and better at certain things than you. And I think that's kind of my goal, you know. And then doing that within your own, I just hit my earphones, within your own brain and seeing, like, you know, it's not really an inferior function, it's an aspirational function, and you just didn't align it properly. It's not going in the right direction, and that's why your problems are coming out. Which is also something I talk about a bit in the Patreon hero maker framework. You know, that parts alignment, which I'm not going to get into now, but making sure that you're 100% going in the same direction, all your parts, and not hating on different aspects of yourself. What? Oh, am I dealing with anxiety or just new to live streaming? I'm new to live streaming, and it's pretty awkward talking to a camera. So that's what that is. And my throat is always dry, especially when I have to talk a lot. Ta-da! And I just naturally move around a lot when I talk at work and stuff like that. Like I teach, and I used to talk to like 300 people and stuff like that in Japanese, and I would always just kind of bounce around. I don't know, I think it's just having a little bit of movement's better than standing like this. I did this for a while in the earlier videos, and I thought it was pretty awkward, and I sounded like a robot. So I decided to just kind of loosen up a bit and see if that's better, and we'll figure it out. All right. Okay. I am officially gone. I'm going to bed. Good night. Take it easy. Thanks for checking out the channel. Thanks for joining the stream. It definitely gave me a lot more to talk about with you guys here, commenting and stuff like that. See, I feel like I have to answer these comments because I can't leave them unanswered. Yeah, am I gonna do another INTP video? I don't know. When I do NT videos, some people kind of like, well, when are you gonna do the other videos on other types? And I'm like, I can't do them all. I can't make videos on every type. I do personally want to do more NT stuff, NT videos, because there's a big audience for it. A lot of people respond to the videos, and it's interesting for me because it's like my different cousin, right? Like we're somewhat similar, but also no. You know, I have an ENTP friend in my life too. And I'm like, you just think differently, you know? And I think it's intriguing. It also gets me kind of more in touch with extroverted thinking as the INTJ videos anyway. Okay, yep, thank you very much. I'm taking off. I'm not going to answer anymore. Thank you for all the comments and questions, and I hope it helped. I hope anything I said kind of rang a bell and made your Starbucks more entertaining. All right, good night. Oyasumi.